1987. A monster sits dead in the African sand. The ultimate Soviet killing machine.
The Mi-25 Hind. It destroyed everything it touched. America desperately wanted its secrets, but stealing it seemed impossible. It weighed 18,000 pounds, and the enemy was watching.
The prize lay deep inside Chad, surrounded by hostile Libyan forces. One wrong move meant war.
The CIA called the Night Stalkers, the best helicopter pilots on Earth. Their mission was pure madness.
They had to fly 2 giant Chinook helicopters across an ocean, then fly them into the desert.
They called it Operation Mount Hope 3, a 500-mile flight through total darkness. No lights allowed. Midnight, the choppers skimmed the sand dunes. They flew just 50 feet above the ground.
Total radio silence! A sandstorm threatened to swallow them whole, but they pushed forward.
They reached the target zone, but the Libyans were waiting, and someone pulled the trigger.
They secured the perimeter in total silence. One loud noise meant failure.
There it was, the Russian monster. But it was far too heavy to fly. They had less than 2 hours. 3 Libyan patrols circled just 5 miles away.
Mechanics attacked the beast. They ripped off weapons and armor to shed weight. They strapped massive steel cables to its spine. The rigging had to be perfect. The giant Chinook hovered directly above. The rotor wash created a blinding sandstorm.
The cables pulled tight. The Chinook's engine screamed in pure agony against the weight. The monster lifted off, but then alarms blared. A Libyan armored column had found them. Tracers ripped through the dark. The Libyans opened fire. The Chinook was a massive, slow target. They escaped the gunfire, but the Sahara Desert had its own trap. A massive sandstorm blocked their path. They flew straight into the dust wall. Visibility dropped to 0. The engines choked on the sand.
Red warning lights flashed. The engines were burning too much fuel, carrying the massive weight.
They would not make it to a safe base. They had to refuel in midair.
In a storm, a Hercules tanker appeared in the violent storm. It dragged a fuel hose through the turbulent air.
The hose whipped violently. One strike to the rotor blades would instantly kill everyone on board.
The pilot slammed the throttle. The massive Chinook plummeted towards the sand.
At the last second, the engines cleared the dust. They roared back to life.
A mid-air refueling in a massive sandstorm. It was an absolute miracle of aviation.
Dawn broke over the Sahara. They had flown 500 miles with a stolen monster.
The heist of the century was almost complete. Subscribe to War Cinema 4K for more classified history.
36 hours later, the stolen prize arrived in America. The CIA could finally dissect the monster.
They landed at a classified base. Armed guards surrounded the plane immediately.
The mission transitioned from a heist to reverse engineering. They tore the machine apart piece by piece.
They tested the titanium armor. It was thick enough to stop heavy machine gun fire. But when they opened the weapons pod, they found a terrifying secret no one expected.
They found a laser targeting system. It was decades ahead of anything the CIA expected.
The technology was terrifying. It meant the Hind could destroy a tank from miles away in pitch black.
This changed everything. The Soviets had a sniper rifle. While America was still using shotguns, the rotor blades were indestructible. They took direct hits from heavy anti-aircraft guns and barely scratched. They learned the monster's weaknesses, how to jam its radar, how to break its armor.
The CIA compiled everything. They created a manual on how to kill the beast.
American pilots trained against simulations of the Hind. They learned its exact blind spots.
The stolen machine gave America a massive advantage. They now knew exactly how to defeat the Soviet threat. The intelligence gathered fueled a new generation of American weapons. Faster, deadlier, smarter. But the Soviets were not stupid. They knew their secret was stolen, and they retaliated. The Soviets were furious. They immediately upgraded the Hind, making it faster, heavier, and deadlier. Security at Soviet air bases became absolute. No one would ever steal from them again. They exported the new monsters globally. Soon, America's enemies possessed the ultimate gunships.
1991. Operation Desert Storm. The ultimate test for the CIA's stolen secrets. Saddam Hussein had hundreds of Soviet Hinds. The American military had to face the beast.
Midnight. American Apaches flew low beneath enemy radar. They used the CIA's exact playbook. Their mission was critical. Destroy the early warning radar so the bombers could fly safely.
The Soviet-made radars were annihilated in seconds. The American upgrades worked perfectly.
But the smoke cleared, and a massive Iraqi Hind hovered right in front of them.
The Apache pilot reacted instantly. His helmet locked onto the Soviet monster.
The Iraqi Hind fired first. A wall of rockets screamed through the night sky. The Apache dove low, using the exact blind spot the CIA had discovered years ago.
The American gunship fired its 30mm cannon directly into the beast's weak point.
The titanium armor shattered. The stolen secrets had just saved American lives.
The monster crashed into the desert in a ball of fire.
The skies belonged to America.
The legacy of Operation Mount Hope 3 was cemented in the burning sands of Iraq.
In the weeks that followed, the American military destroyed the entire Iraqi Hind fleet.
Back in Washington, the men who planned the impossible heist watched in absolute silence.
But the war for secrets never ends. What is the CIA stealing right now? The stolen Hind never flew in combat again. It became a captive ghost in America.
The Night Stalker pilots received their medals in complete secrecy. No press, no cameras.
Operation Mount Hope 3 remains one of the greatest aviation heists in military history.
They stole a Soviet monster right under the enemy's nose, without firing a single shot.
It proved that American logistics and raw courage could outsmart pure brute force. Today, new machines rule the night sky. But the DNA of that mission lives on.
Because somewhere in the world, in the dead of night, they are flying again.
Waiting for the impossible order. Ready to steal the next dark secret.
Some secrets are buried in the desert sand. Others are locked in steel vaults.
Hit subscribe on War Cinema 4K right now, because history is written by the victors.